We're here once again in Gaidry, reporting to you for Tri-Parish News.
For over 40 years, I, along with my team, have had the distinct pleasure of archiving special events and special people in our area. When I was a young reporter, I never realized how important those seemingly routine interviews would become. And as we have made our journey through the television industry, the most important memories to us have been captured through the lens of a camera and a microphone. We just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of those who have given us our start and continue to support us 40 years into our great journey. When you signed on back then and still today, you are helping preserve the precious moments that will be archived for future generations. It's been a joy, and we thank you here at HTV. HTV, preserving the past and moving into the future.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls. Well, we've often tried to show you the treasures that we have here in our great parish. And right down the road from HTV, we have such a great treasure. The Plantation home where Mr. Wilson Gaidry III and his family, all of the ancestors that came before him. This is such a great place, a colorful place. Dwayne Dupree and I spent the morning, he spent most of the day gathering information. To see this plantation is to love it. Had a great feel when we were driving up and all the sights and the original scenes that still remain with this plantation. On tonight's Bayou Time, we're going to cut it up into 3 segments, but we'll start off by talking with the man himself, Mr. Wilson Gaidry, about what this place means to him and what it meant to others who were before him. Mr. Gaidry, what an amazing place. We've spoken by phone, but never did I realize the full history of not only this plantation, but you were telling me stories about the family. What an interesting family. And it's just unbelievable. And you've kept it, it's like no one's ever moved.
Well, this house has been here since the family's lived on this place since 1828. We bought it from Jim Bowie and has been continually operated as a farm since then. I still farm, I'm a farmer. You can tell by the hat and everything, we are a farmer. And all through the generations, everybody's left a little something, a piece of furniture, a book, or something that's added to the history of everything. This house is an accumulation of relics from generations. And there's a lot of connections to other plantations and other history in Louisiana.
We know a lot of Gaidrys here and around the area. You were just telling me a story about Bayou Lafourche. I had an uncle named C.J. Gaidry, G-U-E-D-R-Y, but we all know the G-A-I-D-R-Y. What's the correlation?
Well, all the Gaidrys, the G-U-E-D-R-Ys, all the Gaidrys and Gaidrys have all descended from G-U-E-D-R-Ys, and the names got misspelled over the years. And actually, Gaidry is spelled G-U-E with the accent aigu, which means E sounds like an A. So actually, I always say that Gaidry is pronouncing their name right, the Gaidrys are pronouncing it wrong, but we're all related to common ancestors.
I was also commenting, I'm not going to give you age on TV, but you look great because you were sort of farming the land, living off the land. Is that the key?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the key or not, but we're still active. We still farm. We still, work on the farm and run tractors and all. But I don't know if that's the key or not. I don't know. When we're 85 and we've seen it. We've seen a lot.
Tell me your memories of the place. You seem to have a great recall of things. What was it like back in the day over here?
Well, East Park Avenue was a gravel road that stopped just about a half a mile further down. There was only one bridge crossing by at Terrebonne. That was the Degville Bridge, and there was a little wooden one-lane bridge. And the road, we were in the dairy business, the road was so bad, it was a shell road, had potholes in it, that sometimes we'd break the milk bottles in the truck, because the milk bottles at that time were all glass bottles going down the road. Everybody lived off the land. Everybody had little gardens, had pigs and chickens and all, and we would deliver milk and eggs to the people in Houma. That was after the Depression, mm-hmm. And the farm has gone through, or the plantation has gone through many phases and it's changed, I guess, with the time. It started out indigo, then we went through sugar cane, then we truck cropped and brought crops to the French market in New Orleans, and then we had a dairy business, and now it's cattle and hay operation. We farm in about 1,000 acres.
You know, we were talking about Miss Margie Scobie. We both know her well. She's a great historian in her own right, and she knows so much of the African American history, but as well, she spills over and can tell you a lot about the Caucasians that lived here and all the others. But she would be really tickled. Maybe she's seen it already. That letter you have from a slave that went back to Africa that needed a little money to come back because he loved it here so much.
Well, he had gone to Libya, and he found out that the conditions in Libya were worse than he had in America. And that was one of my great-grandpas had been a slave for him, and he was freed, went to Africa, and was sending him a letter asking for money to come back.
The picture behind you, now let me get this right, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but you're a descendant of the young girl in the picture, is that correct?
Well, the lady too. The lady was her mother.
Okay, yeah. So tell me how all that worked, because I'm trying to pick it all up. But how did the Barrows go from Barrow, which is so prominent around Houma, Barrow Street and everything else, and such generous people, but how did that switch over to the Gaidrys?
Well, Barrow had one son that was Ruffin Jr., and Ruffin Jr. had a lot to dig in the canal, the company canal. He connected the Mississippi River with St. Martinville and all. But his only son died. Ruffin Sr., the man that had bought this property, great-great-grandfather, that had bought this property, Barrow Street's named after him. That's his wife, Volumia, the big lady in the picture. He had only one son and one daughter. And so I'm descendant on the daughter's side. And of course, the name changed. The Gaidrys had a general store where the Holy Rosary Church was. And it was Adolph Gaidry. He managed a store and he was a dentist. I don't know what it took to be a dentist back then. Yeah. But Adolph Gaidry, son, married one of the Barrows, Clara. We have a picture of Clara in there. Mm-hmm. And so that's how the Barrows got into the Gaidrys. Now, if it wouldn't have been for the Cajuns, a lot of these plantation owners were almost like royalty. They had gotten accustomed to not working, to having everything more or less waited on and all. When the Depression and all hit, 1900s, when you had the sugarcane boom, a lot of them couldn't get down and work. And that's why the Gaidrys actually came in. They were Cajuns. They were used to work. And my grandfather, who married the Barrow, Wilson I, could work. And he worked on the farm and kept things going. Well, a lot of the plantation owners, like Southdown, those places, lost because they didn't know how to come down a notch when things got rough.
Mm-hmm. So the blue collar mentality sort of saved this place, right?
Well, yeah, it still exists. You know, my father worked, I worked, he worked in the fields with the field hands, and so do I.
Yeah, you're living off the land, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And just talk about the generalities of it all. I think you told me at one point when we talked, I know y'all have a lot of land. I think we were renting a TV tower off some of your land.
He just built a new one.
Right. So there's a lot of land that went, how many acres did you say?
Well, we farming about 1,000 acres, you know, cattle and everything else. Of course, you had to diversify as times went on, you know, to maintain all of this. Farming is a very unpredictable type of business. You know, one year it's up, the next is down. So we got into rental properties. You know, we rent property on the intercoastal. I had a construction company for a while, and I built metal buildings, and we built buildings along East Park to rent, and rent houses and things like that. We have a real estate company. We have about 200 tenants that really is, it blends in with the farm, you know, but it was a security. The farming is a very insecure business, as you might have known. You know, the farm prices up and down, and right now it's very hard for some farmers to make money. With you'd think with the price you see in the store, you would think that farmers are making a lot of money. But I was reading the other day on one of the farm magazines that the turkey farmers make 25 cents on a turkey. So there's a lot of middlemen, and the farmers really, it's just like the shrimp fishermen. Mm-hmm. You know, the shrimp fishermen don't get much, but when you go to the store, it's high.
When I was driving up the driveway, I just started getting recalled moments of my grandparents and seeing the cypress and even smelling the cypress in this house. Cypress was a big commodity back then, wasn't it?
Well, it was like the oil is today. People bought land and tried to acquire land for the cypress swamps. And of course, Barra, along with his sugarcane operation, had a sawmill. And when he donated the property to the black church, you can still see it. It's right back of LaRusso's on Grand Kaya. It's called the New Zion Baptist Church and Cemetery. He let him use his sawmill to saw the lumber for the first church. But cypress was a real big thing back then. It was like, well, as you know, Gibson, Chacahula, and all those places. It was like all is today, you know.
You know, part of what I'm learning about this plantation is you hear so many things about slavery. And trust me, everybody has their own opinion on it. But I was impressed with the fact that the slaves that worked on location here were treated very well, and they were almost like part of the family.
Well, Barra had, you can go to the University of North Carolina and read the Plantation Journal. Barra built a church, and he got a free man of color by the name of Isaiah Lawson, to come down and preach and teach the black children. And he had a hospital for them, and Sundays were off. Everybody had their own house. But, you know, just like anything else, it was a period of time. I'm not condoning it in any kind of way, but he didn't mistreat the people that were working here. They had, we were just reading a letter that one of the overseers had written, where he was bringing one of them to a doctor. And he fired 2 overseers for hitting some of the people. One of them hit one with a shovel, and he fired him. Yeah. So it wasn't chains and whips, but it was still, I'm not condoning it either, you know.
Why is it so important? And behind me, you have relatives, and you have a granddaughter also that's involved here. Why is it so important for you to see the history of this being taught to others?
Well, I think there's a lot of history here. For years, I was involved in working. I didn't have the money all the time to devote. And we had all these books, all of this history, these paintings that were here. And I just wanted to preserve that as part of the history of the parish, and it's worthwhile preserving. You know, it's like that Victrola right there, Tommy Cobb, you remember Tommy?
Sure do.
Tommy was into repairing Victrolas, and he came over and got it out the attic. And after his died, his son said, I know my daddy would want you to have it back. And that's what that is. We got all this type of history around here. You know, so many connections to different people and all.
And of course, Tommy Cobb was a great historian in his own right.
Yeah, I got his book sitting right up there, Houma, and he was into that for a while.
Yeah, so what's your hope to see this, and what's your hope for your relatives behind, but what's your hope to see, how far do you want to go with this?
Well, I just hope that it does well enough to maintain itself in the future. That's what, and my granddaughter, and of course Celeste is very, and my wife, they're all interested in preserving this. I mean, it's a nice house. It's all this furniture. This piano came from the Paris World Fair in 1856. You got all this type of history here, and you know, there's things that just need to be preserved. And that's the purpose of the tour thing. Is not to, I don't need any to make money with it, but just to preserve it. I hope it brings in enough business to preserve it, and that's my purpose.
When you said 1856, I reside in a building now right down the street that was built in 1856.
Yeah.
There were a lot of connections between the merchants back then.
Yeah, well, there was a lot, yeah. And we have a little thing around here of Davidson's store. I think it's an invoice or something from 1910 or something like that. You know, we have all that history. We have papers and books. Well, Nichols had Clifton Terrio, who's with the archives at Nichols, had a field day in his house, going through the attic, going through everything. And he brought a lot of stuff to Nichols. Papers. We have letters from the Civil War. We have letters from before the Civil War. We got some Revolutionary War stuff in here. And Clifton brought that because some of the books and all need to be in you know, the air-conditioned environment where it can be preserved, you know. So a lot of stuff's there, but we can go anytime we want and make a copy of them, the letters and all. So a bunch of stuff. We have a lot in Nichols right now.
Yeah, and they want to preserve that for sure. I saw some of the letters that were showing me around the back a while ago. The penmanship was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, everybody wrote in longhand back then, you know. And you're talking about French, like Adolphe. Adolphe was educated in French. He could read and write. He kept his books in French. And your courthouse records, your newspapers, everything in this area back in 1870s, 1880s was in French. It was the language. It was the standard French.
Yeah. Did you speak French, or was that a little before you?
I could speak a little bit, but not that much. But because my mother was English, my mother was from North Louisiana, came down here as a school teacher, and my daddy spoke French real well, and but I can read it fairly well. I read the newspaper, the Montreal newspaper, almost every day.
Yeah. Just final question. You still having fun being around here, huh?
Yeah, I sure do. It's a nice time.
Those tractors out there, you get on them?
Oh yeah, I was on one this morning. We had to go get cleaned up before you came, so we do all that. But then I was a marine biologist for the wildlife and fisheries. Yeah. I graduated from USL in '71, and I was a marine biologist in '73, and I wrote publications on shrimp population dynamics that went all over the world.
Well, we'll do the history, but one thing as I'm talking to you, I have to get you on my one-on-one show, because we're going to do a long version of everything. You're too interesting for me to pass it up. But we appreciate,
thank you. I appreciate that.
We appreciate you inviting us here. quite a history.
Well, a lot of people don't know about this plantation. You know, a lot of them owned by a black.
Right.
And everybody knew the big plantations were there. But actually, this was a hub for 16 plantations. Barrow owned 16. He owned Donaldsonville Plantation, Live Oak, Myrtle Grove, Collier Grove, Point Farm in Montague. And this was the central. They had carrier pigeons he would send his messages to his different plantations. But this was his residence. So that's why they call it Residence Plantation.
He had carrier pigeons based here that would
communicate? We still have the old pigeonniere. They called it a pigeonniere in French. That was the pigeon house.
Wow. That beat the telegraph, right?
Well, that's how they did it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk with the granddaughter and someone who's very special to the plantation. She helps to run it day by day. We'll be right back.
We're here once again in Cocodrie, reporting to you for Tri-Parish News.
For over 40 years, I, along with my team, have had the distinct pleasure of archiving special events and special people in our area. When I was a young reporter, I never realized how important those seemingly routine interviews would become. And as we have made our journey through the television industry, the most important memories to us have been captured through the lens of a camera and a microphone. We just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of those who have given us our start and continue to support us 40 years into our great journey. When you signed on back then and still today, you are helping preserve the precious moments that will be archived for future generations. It's been a joy, and we thank you here at HTV. HTV, preserving the past and moving into the future.
And welcome back to this very special Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls, and we're going to go back to the plantation that was so special to the Gaidry family. We're going to talk with the granddaughter, Brooke Sanford, and Miss Celeste Landry, who helps put it all together. Let's listen in as they describe their experience with a great plantation home right here in Terrebonne Parish.
All right, Brooke, we'll start with you because you're I guess we said the youngest generation. Anybody younger than you? Still?
No, sir. Well, my brother is younger, but he's the same generation.
Same generation.
Yes.
What do you think of all this? This is amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's an honor to be able to know this much about my family. Not many people I know can go back since generations and say who their ancestors were.
And your ancestors were some pretty important people.
Yes, sir.
Barrow Street in Houma?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty incredible. Don't you think this would be a good course in school? You could almost do one course in this. Celeste, we'll go to you. And I know you're familiar with a lot of the history, but what a walking history place. Not
Correct.
a history book, history place.
Yes.
And its tentacles go way out.
Yeah, definitely. And in school, I hated history. I started at Southdown, and I fell in love with the history of Terrebonne Parish. And then I came here and did not realize the history that they have here at Residence Plantation. Connections all through, like Roberta Grove, didn't realize it was all connected with the Barrows, didn't realize that Barrow Street was named after Robert Barrow, Bayou Canal, the canal. I didn't realize it was Robert Ruffin Jr. that
Company
did this.
Canal.
Yeah, Company Canal,
Yeah.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the history, just everything. And they very giving all the way through the history. Everything I'm reading, everything I'm going through between the Barrows, the Slatters, the Gaidrys, they very giving, very appreciative of what they have, and they very giving. And that's what I like about the history here at Residence Plantation.
Brooke, in your generation, how does all this, I mean, we always pick on the generations after us, and we always say, oh, those young people don't get it.
They
But they
don't
used to say
appreciate
that
it,
about
yeah.
my generation too.
Yes.
But how does this all translate in your mind about so much history in one place and
looking at what they had to go to get to the next step, and now it ends up at you.
Yes, sir. I think it's a really good lesson to look back and see how they moved forward in time, because, you know, my generation, we have to look forward to moving in time, and especially Terrebonne Parish, if you stay here, you want to better Terrebonne Parish, you want to make things better here. So I think it's a good outlook for me and other people of my generation to look out on, to say, how can we keep bettering this place? How can we move forward and, you know, build this place up just like my ancestors did, because they really built Terrebonne Parish a lot. You know, a lot of churches, a lot of places wouldn't be here without them.
How lucky do you feel that you get to see your grandfather, who was just on camera a little while ago with us, at 85, out in the back, still getting on his tractor and doing some incredible things?
Yes, sir. I'm very lucky. You know, I watch him work every day. He works so hard, and we would not have this place if it wasn't for him. You know, he's a very hard worker. He loves his family very much. The reason why he works so hard is so we could have what we have, and, you know, it's all thanks to him that we still have this place.
Yeah, and not to say that the ladies on the other side don't work hard too. They put in as much
yes,
time. Yes,
my grandmother, she's a very hard worker as well. A lot of things we still have because of her. You know, they make a really good team. They really do. They're both very hard workers, and they work hard together, and they're always teaching me things and trying to help me, you know, be like them and work as hard as them and be successful.
Yeah. Celeste, you were showing me those old letters.
Yes.
In the back, and it was quite nostalgic, because the whole time I'm looking at the letters, I'm smelling the cypress everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's something about the smell of an old house that's not pungent. It brings you alive.
Yes.
It's just that old cypress smell.
Yeah.
But I was so impressed by the quality of the letters and how they used to take their time and write them out. It was almost perfect handwriting.
It's perfect. It's very hard to read, though. I have to take a magnifying glass and just kind of go read a couple of lines and then go back and trying to, I guess, decide what they were trying to say, because it's not like our English. They use different things, and they have a lot of curves and curly cues and stuff like that. But it's very interesting. And every box I open, it has that smell, and it's like you just opening up a new history lesson, you know, and it's very, very interesting. They have a book. It has everything, his diary of every day here on the plantation, and it's very amazing, you know, how they said, this one was sick, they took him to the doctor, or we made this, or, you know, different things. It's just very, very interesting. It's almost like you living through them, you know. I found one box. It was Aunt Roberta, which would be Doc's great aunt or aunt, and she had a box of nothing but love letters, and I felt like I was invading her privacy, but it was just amazing.
It was like a soap opera.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It just kind of put tears in my eyes, because it's still kind of, you know, because it's like, it was beautiful. It was like them writing letters to each other. In fact, I put some upstairs so people could appreciate some of it. I didn't put it all out there, because I don't want people to really look at too much of, you know, their privacy, you know. But it was beautiful. It was very touching.
What are the tours like over here? Can y'all talk about that a little bit when people come?
Sure.
To walk through?
We here Monday through Friday. I'm here from 8:15 to 12:30. You're welcome to walk in. We are not set up for credit card yet, but it is cash or check. It's $20 for adults, but it's like a 2.5 hour. It's so much history here, I promise you. When you leave here, you're going to be amazed. Brooke does a wonderful job, and I'm very proud of her, too. She's doing a great job. I know that Wanda and WJ are very proud of her. We go through the house itself, and then we go through the cabin in the back, a worker's cabin, which is pretty amazing because people actually live there. It could be anywhere from 7 people in the family living in that 1-bedroom work cabin, and then we go to the dairy in the back. And then a lot of antique furniture all through the house, which is during the generations. You could see the different generations of the furniture, the pictures. Just amazing. Just everything about this place is amazing. It's just so much history. So if you have a lot of time and you want to come, it's definitely worth it.
Brooke, do you feel like when you're doing the tours, it's giving you an opportunity, as we've spoken about before, as a last generation so far? I'm sure there'll be more. But don't you get to really go back in time? Do you ever find yourself stopping and going, wow, if I could just go back 100 or so years? Do you get that feeling every now and then?
Yes, sir. Doing the tour sometimes, I do feel like, you have to go back in time kind of in your mentality, because you have to kind of immerse yourself in the history and be able to tell it like they're experiencing it. But also growing up in this house, I've seen these portraits every day. I've heard these stories every day. So it is kind of like telling my life story when I do tell it people, because it's been my everyday life since I've grown up here. So
With all of the portraits all over, who do you favor the most?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to upset them.
So you
I
say,
think Volomia.
really?
Yes, I really do.
So you'll give me an objective statement.
Yes.
She's trying not to hurt hearts
Yes,
here.
exactly.
So
But I
so
think,
Volomia.
yes, and I find that she has the grace, that Brooke has.
Yeah.
I think that she has that inner beauty.
She's inherited that, right?
Yes, she did.
And that's probably why she's sitting here to have taken on it. You have a sentimental side, don't you?
Yes, sir. A lot of members in my family didn't grow up every day in the house. But me, I basically grew up here every day when I was over here, because I went back and forth between parents. So whenever I was at my mom's house, I was always here. I was always growing up here. My mom lived on this property as well. So I spent every day in this house, waking up in the morning, going to school, coming back, sleeping here. So it's sentimental, because it's not like a business to me. It's just like preserving my home.
What's the coolest thing? I'll ask both of y'all this question. What's the coolest thing that you like to talk about over here? Because when I was interviewing Mr. Gaidry, he was saying so many things that I'm going, wow.
Wow, yes.
Wow. What's your biggest wow over here?
Just the connection to Terrebonne Parish. It's just overwhelming. I did not realize, like Slatter Street up the road, it's named after Mr. Slatter. Right. Roberta Grove, Barrow Street, Methodist Church, St. Francis. All of this is all connected here. I do like the hats. I know I was just telling the cameraman, I love the hats because it represents over the years that they wore this hat, and they wore all different kind of hats. They were farmers, but they were also indigo, and then sugarcane, and then dairy and chicken, and it's just, and cattle. It's just amazing how all these generations stayed on this property and has developed into this. And so I feel very lucky to be here. I really do.
Brooke, your wow moment.
I think the submarine is my favorite thing, because not only is it just a cool story, it was the first submarine to sink a ship. It is cool to me personally because it's like my family helped in making such an historic event happen, and it's just amazing to me. It's cool. I like war movies, World War II movies, especially when they have love stories in it and stuff like that. So I like war history, and I think that's why I love it so much, because it was a big step in the Civil War and a big step in history as well.
When that Victrola,
Yes.
played it a while ago, and I
Yes.
heard that sound come out, doesn't that just bring you back so quickly?
Yes. Sometimes I'll come in here, if I get a break or whatever, I'll come in here and just turn it on. And, it's almost like I could see them dancing and just, the history. And I look up at Volomia and think, God, how lucky she was to be here, and Volomia, Roberta also, So Because of Wanda, I have this amazing job, and I can't thank her enough. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Hey, Brooke, let me ask you, and I say this not in a haunting way or anything like that, but when you're in here, you almost can feel a connection to the people that were here. Do you feel that?
Yes, sir.
What's that like?
It's like I know them. It's like they're my family. I guess, and it might be different for me because, again, I grew up here every day and I saw their faces every day, but it's like I know them as a person. Because, I mean, I can imagine what they look like. Even if I'm not here, if someone asks me what they look like, I can tell them right off the bat. You know, it's like I know them personally. I see their faces every day. And, of course, their letters. We found so many letters, personal letters, not just, you know, historic letters, but personal letters as well. Mm-hmm. And when you read those personal letters, you can kind of get a feel of how they were as a person, how they talked, their mannerisms, their emotions, what they felt strongly about. So all of that ties together with their faces and their letters and everything, getting to know them.
That is such a cool story. Why is it so important that people should come visit this beautiful place and sort of keep this in their mind about what it used to be like back in Terrebonne Parish?
I think the lesson here is learn from the history and build on it for the future. I mean, hardworking, very giving. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I mean, just over time, it's just amazing how the family stuck together. They built everything you see around here. They built it for the family, and that's what it's all about at the end. It's about family, history, and learn from your history. And that's how I look at it.
And Brooke, one day when you decide to tie the knot, is the person that you do that with, they're gonna have to be able to get on a tractor and work outside and keep things going?
Well, who knows?
You know I had to ask that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. But no, thank you. Great job. And really, this is an amazing place.
Yes, thank you, sir.
It's very amazing.
Don't go away. We have another segment on what is meant to be a great place for you to visit now. And it is historical. It has a sense of pride. It has great features. All it's waiting for is you to go visit. We'll be right back.
We're here once again in Cocodrie, reporting to you for Tri-Parish News.
For over 40 years, I, along with my team, have had the distinct pleasure of archiving special events and special people in our area. When I was a young reporter, I never realized how important those seemingly routine interviews would become. And as we have made our journey through the television industry, the most important memories to us have been captured through the lens of a camera and a microphone. We just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of those who have given us our start and continue to support us 40 years into our great journey. When you signed on back then and still today, you are helping preserve the precious moments that will be archived for future generations. It's been a joy, and we thank you here at HTV. HTV, preserving the past and moving into the future.
And welcome back as we are visiting the Volomia House. And it is a great plantation, one you should visit yourself. And we spoke already to Mr. Wilson Gaidry III, such a nice man who still works on the property, keeping it in tip-top shape. And we also spoke with the granddaughter, Brooke Sanford, and also someone near and dear to the place, Miss Celeste Landry. Let's join Brooke and Celeste again as they take us on a tour of the upstairs of the Volomia House.
This is the stairwell up to the second floor. Up here, you'll see this is the original house here, and then this is the house today. This is Volomia House. You could tell that it has been closed in, and it's a little bit different today than what it was from the beginning. Up the stairs, you'll see all the wood, which is amazing to me. You could see where people just generations have walked these stairs. You could see where it's kind of worn down. And it's just amazing when I walk up here. I like to look at the different things, it's just history over the years. People walking, the kids running up and down. I think it's just crazy that it has lasted all this time.
An interesting thing about stairs back then is that they had these little toppers on the stairs. If they didn't have those, it means they were in debt. They couldn't afford to even have toppers on their stairs. If they have toppers on the stairs, it means they weren't in debt. So if you go into any old homes, if they had those toppers, they were debt-free.
These are books throughout the generations. They just keep adding to the books. And some of them date back to 1830 all the way to now. Some of them you can't even touch. They fall apart. They're so old. The different eyeglasses we have here that they used, and all the wood detail is just, you look at it and think how they did all this without the tools we have today.
And here we have the room dedicated to the women of the family. To your right, we have Hillette Barrow. She was the daughter of Robert Ruffin Barrow Jr. and Jenny Tinner Barrow. She actually donated her bird collection to Southdown, which is there now in the cases, and she also donated the Gaiosa room. A lot of the bed in there and some things in there were donated to Southdown from her. And this was her mother, and this picture, Jenny Tinner. She was the granddaughter of the last Spanish governor, and again, her grandfather's bed is in Southdown today. This is Roberta Gaidry. She was the sister of Wilson Gaidry II. She lived in New Orleans for a while, and then she moved back here and built a house right next door to the plantation. She had a lot to do with finding some original furniture of the house and of the family. She found 2 chairs. She actually had a diamond from Volumnia, Washington, that she made into a ring. So she has that. And she had a lot to do, a very classy lady. A lot of these things in this room belonged to her. The hats over there, the hat collection was hers. The mink coat in the other corner was also hers. This spot in the hallway we have dedicated to Roberta Gaidry's husband's brother, so her brother-in-law. This was her brother-in-law. He was a soldier in World War II. He was captured in Japan, and he was a prisoner of war in Japan for a while. He wrote letters back. This is actually one of his letters he wrote back to home while he was a prisoner of war. And he actually came back. He made it back safely, so nothing bad happened to him, and that was his hat up there as well. This room over here is dedicated to the Gaidry men. The picture above the fireplace is Mr. Wilson Gaidry I, as is the picture over there, and that was his gun above those 2 pictures. The picture on the left is Miss Eugene Gaidry. Actually, the Gaidrys and the Gaidrys, they come from the same place, and it used to be spelled Guedry, and now it's spelled different ways because along the way it was spelled different ways. And actually, this is Mr. Wilson Gaidry I's suit. This hallway, after you walk through this door, used to be a balcony, and it was closed in and made into a hallway. Right here we have a painting of Greenwood Plantation. Barrow plantations actually spread through multiple plantations: Greenwood in St. Francisville, Afton Villa, Rosedown in St. Francisville, a lot of St. Francisville plantations, so that's why we have that painting of Greenwood. And this is an original baseball uniform. Wilson Gaidry II was in the first baseball team of Houma, the Houma baseball team, and this is one of their uniforms. It's very different from now. It's made of cotton, and these are the photos of them with their team. And entering this last room is just an accumulation of all the belongings and pictures of all the children of the family over time. And this cabinet has original Barrow china in it. During the Civil War, a lot of plantation owners would bury their valuables because their china was laced with real gold or silver. Now this set right here was Volumnia Washington's china that was found buried on this soil. When her daughter returned to come back home, she dug up her mother's china and used it again, and actually it's kind of stained from the dirt, being in the dirt over the time of the Civil War. Now this is the only existing and surviving slave house of Residence Plantation. It stayed here all these times, and actually during the 1900s, families still lived in this house. This house during the slave period was the bell ringer's house, which the bell is right there. The slaves would ring the bell. The slaves lived across the bayou, and they would ring the bell to come to work. You know, different ringings meant different things, different, rhythms, and it's a way to contact everyone across the plantation. And of course, this is the inside of the existing slave house. They have many tools that they used back in the time, many different things, and the portraits above the fireplace were the family that lived here during the 1900s. We have an indigo kettle right here. So before sugarcane, this plantation was used to grow indigo. And what happened was they had a bug that was eating the indigo, so a lot of plantations stopped growing indigo and they switched over to sugarcane. Well, this was an indigo kettle. It was used as dye. A lot of people use indigo to dye their clothes, dye certain things, and this was where they made the dye with the indigo.
Well, we certainly appreciate all of those who took some time out of their schedule to show us a little bit of history here in Terrebonne Parish, and we strongly urge everyone, if you get a chance, call them up and go visit the Volumnia House. It's a great place. It has a great feel, and I'm sure you will be impressed. For Dwayne Dupree here at HTV, I'm Martin Falls. We've enjoyed bringing you this special Bayou Time.
We're here once again in Cocodrie, reporting to you for Tri-Parish News.
For over 40 years, I, along with my team, have had the distinct pleasure of archiving special events and special people in our area. When I was a young reporter, I never realized how important those seemingly routine interviews would become. And as we have made our journey through the television industry, the most important memories to us have been captured through the lens of a camera and a microphone. We just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of those who have given us our start and continue to support us 40 years into our great journey. When you signed on back then and still today, you are helping preserve the precious moments that will be archived for future generations. It's been a joy, and we thank you here at HTV. HTV, preserving the past and moving into the future.